Alright, hello everybody. I have a upcoming match with Corey West, and I'm just going to take you through a little step-by-step, not necessarily step-by-step, but a general overview of my analysis of the match. Alright, so right off the bat, let's talk about size. If you believe weight is equal to strength, which I do, then there should be a definite advantage. Corey West and Todzilla. Corey West, I understand, is about 400 pounds. Maybe even a little higher than that. I don't myself know. He doesn't actually look 400 pounds to me, but I've heard it enough times, so maybe he is. I am less than 400 pounds. So we will give that one to Corey West. Age. Corey West is a 1990 model year, so he's like a electronic fuel injected turbocharged 700 horsepower diesel engine, and I am a 1966 model, so I'm a cast iron V8 with like a great big 4-barrel carburetor on it and cherry pack mufflers. We'll probably give Corey West the age advantage too, although I will not use my opponent's youth and inexperience against him. Okay, speed. And there's always a question about speed. I think this actually means power. You know, the rapid increase of force that you can develop, but what I'm primarily talking about here is the ability off ready go. Alright. I don't think Corey is really super fast. I think there's a couple of things here. One, he's a super heavyweight. Super heavyweights don't tend to be fast. I've been a middleweight and a light heavyweight for a long time. So even though I'm not really fast, I've pulled very fast people. So I have more experience in the speed and ready go from that. There's a lot of videos in his playlist. He doesn't look like he jumps off go quite a bit. It looks like he's coming from, looks like he gets knocked to 11 o'clock more often than not. So I'm going to give speed to me, primarily because, whoops, got to remember what my name is. Primarily because I'm a middleweight. And we'll see this, and he is a super heavyweight. So I'm giving that one to me. Force. I think at 400 pounds, he probably lifts more weight than I do in all the traditional lifts. I wouldn't be surprised if his numbers are higher than me. So once again, since he's 400 plus, we'll give him the credit. We will give him the nod there. Work capacity, or if you want to call it endurance, strength endurance, or what have you. I think, again, since he's a super heavyweight, I think his cardiovascular system would be taxed more than mine. And I think I've trained it more. I do more isometrics. I do more volume work. So I think I win this one just because of my training. So I'm going to give it to me for that. Then there's something that's very important. The MAF. What I term the Mike Aiello factor. This is a combination of how visible your abs are and how good your tan is. Well, I'm a redhead, so I don't tan. My tan is measured somewhere in shades of pasty pale. At 400 pounds, when he's tanned, he's got a lot more tan. He's probably got a lot more abs. So we will give although I probably have better abs than him, so let's give this one to Todzilla. Although it's probably a toss-up, a coin toss at this point. It probably matters about as much as the buckle does. Then there's the all-important Todzilla factor. And we'll come to this one last. So, obviously these things are not all equally rated. So, the fact that he has more size on me, that's probably worth 1.2, an extra 20% on him. The age factor, he wins it but I don't think because of experience and stuff, I don't think that's weighted above 1. So he gets 1 point on that. Speed, power, ready, go. I think this is way more important than age or size, only because if you get on the winning side first and you got momentum going, so this is probably more significant than size. I'd rather be able to generate a lower power level quicker than a higher power level slower. So let's give that 1.3. These are very scientific numbers. You'll have to go to the Wikipedia page for excellence, not victory, to find the reductions for all these. Force, I think force is very important. We'll give that to Corey, and we'll get that a 1.3. Because when you feel somebody that's just that much stronger than you, it's overwhelming. Work capacity, I'm going to call work capacity 1.2, because it doesn't really matter if you can't stop the match, and it doesn't really matter if you can't stop the match before it goes. So work capacity is important, but boy, you got to be somewhere else on top of it. The Mike Aiello factor, the combination of Abe's, and that's probably worth 0.2. So at this point, Corey's at 1.1 plus 1, 1.2 plus 1 is 2.2, 3.5. And I'm at 1.3, 2.5, 2.7. But the Toddzilla factor, which I win because I'm Toddzilla and he's not, and this takes into account whether or not the refs call your fouls, whether or not the refs call your ready goes. I mean, once you're famous, you get away with a lot more stuff, and people want a lot more autographs. So that's probably worth, I don't know, a ranking of, 8? So if I add that 8 to me, I'm at 10.7. So theoretically, on paper, I win, as long as the paper is mine and the theory is mine. Okay, now that's the empirical version of the analysis. You got a picture of that? All right. I've only got one whiteboard. Now let's talk about, so that would be if the match was held today. The problem is the match isn't held today. We both got time to prepare. So, and this is why these match predictions are always hard for me, because you can never tell how somebody's preparing. Let's talk about what our various strategies should be. Corey West, right, trains with Monster Michael Todd. Well, on the practice video, which is in my channel, Monster Michael Todd has a killer shoulder press on me. If you study my videos, you'll see I am susceptible to foreign top rollers and domestic shoulder presses. Michael Todd has a good one. Michael Todd and Corey West train together. If I was Corey West, I would definitely be training the shoulder press. I don't think he's training top roll at all. I've never seen him top roll, so I'm not so much worried about his top roll. The other thing I see with Corey West is he likes to be wrist to wrist in his hook. And we mentioned earlier, it doesn't seem really fast. So, for me, I would love to pull. I love pulling inside. I do not want to be wrist to wrist just because that's where he is. And if you see big matches, when they get wrist to wrist, it allows those tall guys to get down lower, closer to the table. So I still want to pull inside where Corey does, but I want to be knuckles high, and I want to have the hand, and I want to be flat-handed. All right. And that is, oh, I should have been better prepared before I started this. The reason for that is, hold on, technical difficulty. Wow, what a very unprofessional video I'm doing here. Jesus. Well, we'll come back to it. By pulling here, and I'll explain to you a little bit, this puts more of the stress on the elbow. I want the match to be a match between his elbow and my elbow. Being 400 pounds and generating huge amounts of force is great, but only if your elbow can take it. So, how am I going to turn the match to where I want to be? In order to develop knuckles high, knuckles high flat-handed stuff, I am going to raise this up a little bit, and I will primarily be working parallel table movements, not so much back pressure stuff, because if he does decide to Monster Michael Todd shoulder press me, I want to be in the center of the table, so when he presses down, he's compressing along the length of my bones and not twisting my elbow out. So I'm going to be heavy in the center of the table. I'm not going to be sitting out here ever. So what am I going to do for training? Obviously the wrist wrench, because I like it, but the wrist wrench is primarily going to be parallel table movements, a lot of shoulder driven commitment, but with the knuckles high. Okay, and this is why. If you're pulling flat-handed with your knuckles high, the force is applied here. Well, if I'm 20 inches from here to here, once you get wrist to wrist, the force is now applied down lower. It probably lowers the force application 2 to 3 inches relative to your elbow. So if you're down here, the same amount of force when you're wrist to wrist puts probably 20% less torque on the elbow than if you're up here. So if I can generate a high level of force and keep his hand open, it puts a lot more torque on that elbow. Also, keep the match in the center with our knuckles high stretches this inside elbow. So I want that inside tendon on his to be tight, and then I want to hit into it and test his elbow versus mine. The other tool I use a lot of, only because whenever they're taller than I am, is the multi-spinner. Again, parallel table movements primarily. So moving it this way across the table. To get better off the ready go and straps, I'm going to up the band work on speed day. Speed day is going to primarily be multi-spinner, wrist wrench parallel, more bands, less weight. Max effort day, parallel and perpendicular wrist wrench and multi-spinner work. And then when I go to practice, I practice with the Muddy River boys. We will be, I will primarily be practicing ready goes, but I'll put a power stretch band on them so that I always feel like that they are way stronger than I am. So I'm going to get conditioned to doing a ready go against an opponent that's way stronger than I am. So I'll put enough bands on the opponent to where they just flat overpower me. And if all that goes according to plan, I should get them off go on the first match, make that last really long. That kind of sucks the wind out of his sails. We'll both be pouring down sweat, and then I just got to make sure I keep his knuckles high and flat the other two matches. Alright, thanks.